Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda and today I have for you my April wrap-up. So the whole month of April I participated in the O.W.L.s Magical Readathon hosted by G over at Book Roast. I did vlog the whole month, and so all of these books that I tell you about, I talk about at some point or another during that readathon. This is basically just gonna wrap up all the stats for the month of reading. So for those of you that don't know, the O.W.L.s Magical Readathon is an opportunity for students to sit their O.W.L.s like the fifth year students at Hogwarts do. This year I was pursuing a career or to be able to sit the NEWTs for a Magizoologist. So I had 4 different categories I had to read books for, or courses I had to complete coursework in. And then in order to get an outstanding in my O.W.L.s, I had to read at least 9 out of 12 books. So I did read a total of 10 books this month, and they varied between audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books, the majority being audiobooks. So not really in any particular order, just basically how I have it written down in my bullet journal. I'm going to start with City of Ashes. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. And this was a buddy read for me with my friend Darshell over at Books and Planners. I will leave her channel link down below. But I listened to this as an audiobook that was 12 hours and 20 minutes, and I gave it a 2-star rating. It wasn't awful for me, but the thing I was hoping with the second book, it didn't really feel like a second book so much, like that transition to build up the world and anything. It was actually that aspect of it that was really lacking for me and is the main reason why I gave it a 2-star rating. I liked the story somewhat, but I really hated how Cassandra Clare is still fixated on the taboo relationship and love in that. You still had your love triangle thing going on, and the world just wasn't explained enough. So I really want to learn more about what the shadow hunters are, like how they develop their skills and their powers. They're not powers, but it's not magic either. But I want to know about the runes and the things that set them apart from humans and set them apart from like the underworlders and everything like that. So I think hopefully the third book will answer some of those questions and just build the world a little bit more for me, but we'll see. So this one just didn't give me what I wanted, even though the story was still kind of fun. I mean, so far the books are just fun. They're not really adding anything to my repertoire or whatever you want to say. So the second book I have the physical book of, but I did listen to it on audiobook, and that was Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. This was a 43-hour and 22-minute audiobook that I gave a 2-star rating. I kind of feel like at this point I almost hate reading these books. I don't necessarily hate them, but it's just like so much book, and I feel like not a lot happens in it. Diana Gabaldon just creates a drama for the sake of drama. It doesn't do anything to add to the story, and I'm just tired of the back and forth. And like the thing I really want out of these books is the history and the culture and everything like that. And it's just a smutty book living out her Highlander fantasy with drama sprinkled in, because you have to, you know, make 1,000-page books and make it last over 8 books. So I'm still reading this series. I'm reading it via audiobook. But honestly, the thing that's really getting me through it is that I want to watch the TV series. And my friend Bailey started reading them. She like took off reading them. She's reading them all as the like short chunky mass market paperback versions. I have the tall mass market paperback versions. And she is now on book 6, and I'm just now halfway through book 4. So it's just fun to read it with her because we can chat about it while we're at work, and she gushes over like the ridiculousness of it, and I'm sitting here complaining about like, oh, it was so predictable. You knew back at this chapter that this was going to happen, and why do they keep trusting these people, and all these things keep happening. But it's kind of fun to just have that little banter with her loving them so much and me almost hating them so much. But yeah, it was fun enough, but again, it's just a fun read. It's not adding anything special or unique at this point. But I will say I am liking the fourth book, which is Drums of Autumn, a lot better. So the next book I have on my list is I Am Livia by Phyllis T. Smith. This I read in the physical version or format, and it was 374 pages. I gave it a 3-star rating. I think I would like this a lot better if I had known from the beginning this was based off of a real person, Livia, during the Caesar reign. I just thought that it was really interesting from a historical standpoint. I don't really know a lot about ancient Rome. I read, I think I read Julius Caesar. I had to have read it. I know the story. So, by Shakespeare, I've read that. And that was basically my whole knowledge of that time period. So this follows Livia, who is a 14-year-old at the time when she hears her father and a bunch of other senators plot to assassinate Julius Caesar, which, as we all know, happened. And then it's kind of her experiences growing up during the aftermath, getting married at a young age to a man she's not really in love with, but feeling like she still has to perform her wifely and womanly duties by bearing him sons, falling in love with someone that's kind of, I guess, like a forbidden relationship because it goes against what her family believes so much in. So just her growing up during that time and the events that happened. So I thought it was interesting. That did give me the historical and cultural information that I am severely lacking from the Outlander books. But it was kind of slow. And again, it chronicled the events of Livia's life. So had I known that from the beginning, I think I would have gone in with a bit more of an open mind during those slow scenes when it was like, okay, why are we still here? Why are we doing this? Or why is this happening? What's the importance to the story? So that's how I felt was just it. There were a lot of things that didn't have a major importance to the story, but in like everyday life and the years of people's lives, it makes sense. So again, it was a 3-star read for me, but I believe it was more of the high end of 3 stars. So the next book I have on my list is The English Patient, and this was an audiobook I listened to. It was 8 hours and 30 minutes long, and I gave it a 2-star rating as well. I had some not great reads this month and some really great reads this month, but this one just, the formatting of it was really interesting, and I felt like it jumped all over the place. I didn't feel like I could keep things straight very well. And again, the main reason that I read this was because we own The English Patient movie, and it has Ralph Fiennes in it, and I really like him as an actor. So I really wanted to read the story so that I could watch the movie. This is one of those rare cases where I feel like the story is going to be portrayed better in film than it is in book. So I think that was my main issue with it, is it just, even as an audiobook, it wasn't, for me, the story didn't sit so well as like a written story. So the next book that I read was a book that I read in a day. just a couple hours actually. It was Bridge to Terabithia. I read this on my Kindle on my flight down to Austin. It was 163 pages on Kindle, and I gave it a 4-star rating. This one I've known there was a movie, because does it have Josh Hutcherson and Anna Sophia Robb in it? I just remember when I was a little younger, the movie was coming out, and there was a song that Anna Sophia Robb sang that I really liked. But I didn't know much of the story other than it was kind of about these kids that go into the woods, and I thought it was more like fantastical than it is. But it's more just their imaginations and them creating and building this world and this story for themselves, in a place in the woods where they can just kind of be kids for a little longer. I didn't know it was a sad story, so I wasn't really prepared for that. But I just really liked, even though it was following young kids, the kids had a really good like relationships, and I felt like character development as well. And it had a lot of really strong points to it, even just being a middle grade story. And I feel like I'm personally growing out of middle grade, but this was just a really strong story for me. So I enjoyed that a lot. The next book I read part of, I didn't finish in April. I am going to finish it in May, but it was Tell the Wolves I'm Home. I was reading this on my Kindle as well, and I got 126 pages in. I'm liking it so far. It follows a young girl named June. She's 14 years old as well. And it follows her building a relationship with, again, someone her family doesn't necessarily agree with. It follows her life in this relationship after her uncle and her godfather passes away from AIDS. So I think it's an important story. I think it's also just a good story to tell about kind of how different people have different reactions and different phases they go through for grief, and in different ways that they grieve for somebody that they love. So, I mean, that's about all I can say about it right now. I don't have a star rating for it, obviously, because I haven't finished it. But the next book I have is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was an 11-hour and 15-minute book that I listened to on audiobook. I gave it a 3-star rating. I haven't really... I know that Circe is pretty popular right now, so I wanted to read The Song of Achilles so that I could read Circe. And I don't... Again, like... Ancient Greece really isn't an area or a topic I know a whole lot about, other than watching Hercules, obviously. And that follows a different Greek hero. So Achilles is often portrayed as being kind of really arrogant, and everyone knows his weakness is his Achilles heel. But this was an interesting story because it didn't follow Achilles. It followed... another boy named Patroclus who grew up with Achilles. He ended up being a foster of Achilles' father when he was young because of an event that happened when he was younger. So it kind of follows their life, their relationship, their friendship. And it weaves in because Achilles' mom is a goddess. So I'm just kind of following along the prophecy of him being this really great warrior, and it follows their lives for quite some time, from about like 10 years of age up until their death. And it's a good story. You see different sides of Achilles versus what's portrayed to most of us, or what seems to be in most stories. And I did really enjoy it. This was also a high end of 3 stars, but yeah, it's just a good book, and I'm looking forward to reading Circe after this. So the next book I have is a reread, and that is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I listened to this on audiobook, and it was an 11-hour, nope, this was a 7-hour and 14-minute book that I gave 4 stars again. It's just a book I really enjoy. It's hard-hitting emotionally. I like the characters. I like the atmosphere of it. I just like the book, and I cried again, of course. I actually read it all in a day. I listened to it while I was at work, and I just enjoyed my reread. And then the next book I have is a book I DNF'd. It was Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I made it 3 hours in, and this one was read by Libba Bray, and she did a great job, but it basically follows, they're not Miss America, they're other beauty queens though, and there's one for each state, and there's a plane crash, and you know, things might not be what they seem, sort of thing. But it was so like stereotypical of dumb blonde girls who only have like looks as a feature, and so it was just really annoying. Like that normally doesn't bother me, but I can't stand like really dumb characters, and so the fact that they were played up so much was just too much for me. I couldn't continue listening to it. It's not a book I'm going to pick up again. I have zero interest in it. So the next book I have is P.S. I Like You by Casey West. This was a 6 hour and 56-minute audiobook. I gave 3-star rating. Another quick read. I listened to it in a day. You follow 2 characters who start writing song lyrics and notes to each other on a desk, and then they start leaving notes under a desk, and they don't know who they are for the longest time. And then as events unfold and as they start to learn more about the other person and feelings develop, and then they find out who the people are, you know, there's a little bit of drama. Of course, they're 17 years old, 17 and 18, so you've got to have the high school drama in there, with jealous girlfriends and things like that. So it was fun. I like Casey West books just as like a little palate cleanse, and they're good during like the spring and summer, in my opinion. I just like to listen to them. I also read The Rights and Wrongs of Janice Wills. This was a 6 hour and 5-minute audiobook. I gave a 1-star rating. I did not like this book. I thought it was so annoying. It was also about a girl who was competing in a beauty pageant for a scholarship, and she just was not very nice to anybody. I felt like she was such a one-dimensional character. She just didn't have a lot to bring to anything, and I don't know, it's not even that she was boring, she was just rude. And I listened to it just to fulfill a prompt for the O.W.L.s. Otherwise, I would have DNF'd this book as well. So it was just, I am honestly forgetting about it because I didn't like it so much, so I really can't say more about it. But the next book and the last book is Why We Broke Up, which was a 6 hour and 30-minute audiobook that I gave a 2-star rating. This is a book about a girl who writes a really long letter to her boyfriend about the reasons why they broke up, and as she's writing it, she tells the story of their whole relationship and throws like all the bits and pieces that she collected from their relationship into this box to drop off to him. Typical like drama-filled high school contemporary. I don't know. I'm not a super big contemporary person, so I'm not exactly surprised that I gave some of them such low ratings, which obviously affects my overall rating for the month, but they fulfilled prompts. They were fun enough. Otherwise, I would have DNF'd them like Beauty Queens, but just not great books for me to read compared to the 2 that I gave 4 stars. So in total, I read 10 books, like I told you at the beginning. My total pages read was 663. My total hours listened were 105 hours and 12 minutes. And then my average star rating for the month was a 2.6. So I would love to know if you also participated in the O.W.L. Magical Readathon down below. If you did, what career were you pursuing? If you were pursuing a career, I want to know what books you read during the month, and if you've read any of these books and have similar or differing opinions, please do let me know down in the comments below, and I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye!